Hello again. Workshop 4, asking questions. So I'll just take you to the trainer notes. So the aim of this session is to introduce and practice the language of asking questions to encourage learner participation. By the end of this workshop, the participants will be able to use elicitation techniques so learners can contribute their ideas and share what they already know. Elicitation is where the teacher gets an answer from the student. So the teacher doesn't give an answer, but draws the answer out of the student. That's elicitation. Participants will be able to check and revise and deepen learner understanding using a range of questioning techniques, and involve learners more proactively through effective elicitation and questioning. Okay, so I'm not going to read through all of these things now. I'm going to move straight on to the procedure. This session starts with a warmer, as ever. This warmer, we commonly call it back to the board. It's a lot of fun. It can get quite noisy. So one participant sits at the front with his or her back to the board. The rest of the class or the group have to try to get him or her to say what is written on the board, a word or phrase that he or she can't see. So it's a lot of fun, but it can be very noisy. I warn you now. Stage 2, session overview and lead in. So this is a group discussion. And if you're going to do a full class feedback, make it brief, as quick as you can. I said in my first video that I think that this can sometimes be a waste of time, so make it brief. Stage 3, advice when eliciting. In this stage, you're going to get participants to work in pairs to identify from a list of advice to identify the bad advice. So it's pair work. Make sure that they don't shout out answers, and that they are sticking to the good habits which you have been working on. Stage 4, reasons for asking questions. So this is a slightly longer session, stage. This is 15 minutes. Participants will work individually, and then you ask them to check their answers in pairs. Don't allow anybody to shout out answers. You want them to check in pairs. Then you, the trainer, will need to pre-teach any difficult vocabulary or phrases which you identify beforehand. Then individuals will read and do a matching task, and finally they can check answers in pairs before you check answers as a class. As ever, make that full class checking as brief as possible. Stage 5, closed questions. So these are questions to which the answer is yes or no. Closed questions. So in this stage, and this is a long stage, 30 minutes, you will need to check any difficult vocabulary, any vocabulary you think will be difficult. Check that participants understand this beforehand. Then they will work in pairs to guess questions which fit the answers that they have. Then listen and check their answers. and then you, the trainer, will check their questions. There are a number of questions which you will need to get them practicing, and you need to make sure that they get their intonation correct. So intonation is the way that your voice goes up or down. And in closed questions, the examples we have here: is it big or small? Is it a fish or a mammal? And if it's a closed yes or no question, does it live in the sea? Does it live on land? Okay, so if it's a or question, the intonation goes up and down. Is it big or small? If it's a yes/no question, then intonation goes up at the end. Does it live in the sea? So this is what you will drill, model and drill, and listen that they are getting it correct. The next stage is we'll look at open questions, and these are questions which the answers are, well, open, much longer. They're not just yes or no. So here, you, the trainer, will elicit, and then, so that means getting ideas, answers from the participants, not giving, but drawing it from them. So you will elicit, then the class will listen, and then the usual habit, check in pairs. Do not allow anybody to shout out answers. Get the participants to check their answers in pairs. Next, they will do a gap fill. So they'll try to guess the words that go into the gaps. Again, checking their answers in pairs. Next, you will drill. So you will model and drill. And now we're going into what I call a ladder pair work. You have two lines of participants, and if you can imagine the two lines like this, they talk to the person standing opposite, asking questions. When they have finished, then they move down. They start like that, and then they move down. This person comes here. They move down and ask the next person, and then they move down and ask the next person, and those at the end move to the beginning. So the line is moving, and they're talking to a different person every time. So they will practice their questions in this moving line technique, this ladder. And finally, a stage which looks at quiet classes. And this, the takeaway from this stage is about not spotlighting students, so not unexpectedly asking a student a difficult question and thereby raising stress levels in the class. This is about allowing participants or students to check their ideas together before you ask for a volunteer to give you an answer. So in this stage of the workshop, we are suggesting that it is good practice to reduce the stress levels of the students by not shining a spotlight on any individual student with a difficult question. Okay, so that was the last one. And the session ends, as they all do, with a reflection and review where the participants will write up their action plan. So that is the workshop for asking questions.